Despite sharp accusations from the opposition, the Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon is entering the hot phase before the regional elections in 6 weeks with a tailwind. That seems strange. After all, the advocate of independence from Great Britain is under heavy attack. On Tuesday, the 50-year-old had to face a motion of no confidence, which she clearly won. In addition, the report of a parliamentary committee accuses her of having misled the MPs. But that only superficially scratches the image of the popular politician, because an independent report attested that she had not made a mistake. For this reason, even before the vote in Parliament, it was hardly conceivable that Sturgeon would really overthrow the proposal of the opposition Conservatives. "If you think you can drive me out of office, you are mistaken and wrongly judging me," said Sturgeon, confident of victory. "If you want to depose me as head of government, do so in an election." She already has rejected the committee's allegations as being politically motivated. Overall, Nicola Sturgeon seems to have come out pretty well. Kirsty Hughes, director of the Scottish Council on European Relations think tank in Edinburgh, told the German press agency. The renowned political scientist John Curtis told the DPA that the allegations against Sturgeon had collapsed. The case looks tricky. Several women had accused Sturgeon's predecessor Alex Salmond of attempted rape and sexual harassment, but the former head of government was acquitted just over a year ago. Now the question arose whether Sturgeon acted correctly in the case and when she found out about the allegations. Salmond accused his former confidant of trying to ignore him politically, and the Conservatives eagerly threw themselves into the argument. Sturgeon, however, denied all allegations, and the independent report confirmed that. First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, I'm always ahead in time somehow. Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon did not deceive Parliament in Edinburgh in connection with allegations of abuse against her predecessor Alex Salmond. And this is the result of an independent opinion by the former Irish Attorney General James Hamilton. Otherwise, Sturgeon would have had to resign. Hamilton published his 61-page report on Monday evening. The subject of his investigation was whether Sturgeon had broken the code of conduct and lied to Parliament about when she was informed of the allegations against Salmond. She had declared before Parliament that Salmond had told her about it on April 2, 2018. In fact, Salmond's former chief of staff had given her notice 4 days earlier. She simply forgot that meeting, Sturgeon claimed. Hamilton accepted that. He sees no reason why she should hide the meeting while she has disclosed all conversations with Salmond, the report says. Furthermore, given the disturbed relationship with Salmond, she should have expected his chief of staff to publicize the meeting. Salmond was accused, as I said, of sexual assault, including attempted rape, by 2 women 3 years ago. The SNP government began an internal investigation, and some things went wrong. State Secretary Leslie Evans, who led the investigation, spoke to the 2 women before it began. Salmond then demanded a judicial review, which found him right. The Scottish government admitted mistakes. The criminal case against him continued. In March last year, a court acquitted him on all charges. The Scottish Parliament then called 2 separate inquiries. In addition to the Hamilton investigation, a parliamentary committee examined the Scottish government's approach to the Salmond case. This report, which was passed against the votes of the SNP committee members, was presented Tuesday morning last week, and Sturgeon does not get off well with it. It was inappropriate that she met Salmond during the ongoing investigation. In addition, she deceived Parliament about the nature of the meeting with Salmond on April 2, 2018. But I welcome the results of the independent investigation, said Sturgeon on Monday evening. And she was relieved, of course. It's comprehensive, it's based on evidence, and it's clear. She called on opposition parties to respect the outcome and stop demanding their resignation. The Scottish Tories nevertheless stuck to a vote of no confidence on Tuesday afternoon, although it had no prospect of success because the opposition parties did not go along with it. Sturgeon won the vote with 65 against 31 votes. 27 MPs abstained. Now the head of government can devote herself to the important regional election again. Her Scottish National Party is hoping for an absolute majority in the vote on May 6th, in order to then reinforce its demand for a new independence referendum. But after the SNP had at times led with a clear lead in surveys, the race is now open again. Political scientist Curtis suspects that the internal party dispute is likely to cost the SNP 2 to 3 percentage points. It was obviously a drawn-out, messy and politically damaging affair, said expert Hughes. It is important that the election campaign can be in the foreground again, said Curtis. Independence, Brexit, coronavirus. These questions should now be dealt with again, and not any allegations. These topics speak especially for Sturgeon. Her crisis management in the corona crisis is valued by the Scots across party lines, as surveys have repeatedly shown. With her goal of bringing Scotland back into the EU, Sturgeon also hits a nerve, because a clear majority of Scots rejects Brexit. In addition, her most important opponent, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, is extremely unpopular in Scotland. Probably because of this, Johnson's spokeswoman does not want to comment on the events in the north. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is preparing for a tough debate. The government in London insists that it will ultimately decide whether Scotland can vote on secession for the second time after 2014. The first time, a slim majority voted against the separation, and Johnson strictly rejects a repetition. But the SNP is of the opinion that the signs have changed because of Brexit and that the Scottish Parliament has sufficient powers. The regional government has already presented a draft law on which questions should be asked in a referendum. Enough material for the election campaign is guaranteed there. The Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon wants the Scottish people to vote again on independence from Great Britain. The independence referendum is scheduled for the new legislative period. As in the referendum in 2014, the Scottish people should decide whether Scotland wants to be an independent country. On Monday, Sturgeon's national party, the SNP, presented a bill for the referendum. And as I said, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson strictly rejects a new referendum. Just 6 weeks before the parliamentary election in Scotland, it is clear that the Scots should be able to decide on their independence again. According to the draft, the date of the referendum is in the upcoming legislature so that Scots have a chance to assess how Scotland has recovered from the pandemic. The responsible cabinet member of the SNP, Mike Russell, said, "People should consider which country we want to be after the crisis." The draft law provides for the people to be asked again the question from the 2014 referendum. Should Scotland be an independent country? Over 16-year-olds and also foreigners entitled to vote should be allowed to vote. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson will still be against the new independence referendum, and he strictly rejects planned independence of the Scots, as it did before the kingdom left the EU. He still will not approve any motion and would bet on an entire United Kingdom. Russell said on Monday that London has no democratic justification to prevent the vote if pro-independence parties win a majority in the May 6th elections. And it will be quite interesting, although with all that's going on, it will only be how big will the SNP win, not if they win. It's more how big will they win. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. Auf Wiedersehen.